Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of Regalytics, and it's back to school next week, so I am home for the next few weeks. There were 9,755 alerts this week. The regulator of the week is California. Wow. No gasoline powered car sales allowed past 2035. My prediction? This will end up in the courts as a violation of the Commerce Clause of the Constitution. Also from California, they officially passed a formal exception for financial institutions to have their people work remotely. Formerly, it had to be at the location of where the institution was registered. The topic of the week is regulatory fees. Why? Well, because the fees for telemarketers accessing phone numbers on the National Do Not Call Registry will increase from $6 to $75. And all telemarketers are obligated by the FTC to pay this fee to get the list so they don't call the bad number and then get an even worse fine. Additionally, the SEC is increasing the fees for public companies and other issuers to register their securities from $92 per million of revenue to $110 per million of revenue. Since we're on the SEC, they are expanding the whistleblower program. It's supposed to incentivize people to report bad behavior. About $1 billion in awards have been granted historically, and this will loop in an additional maybe 1%. My fave, Hester Pierce, dissents, saying it's silly to rewrite since the ink is barely dry on the former rewrite. Others say it brings comfort because it doesn't limit you if your award is too high or if it's in addition to awards from other sources. The SEC also amended rules related to compensation and performance and what needs to be disclosed to investors. The SEC also put out a draft strategic plan for the next few years of what they want to focus on in the regulatory space, as did the FTC and other agencies. Notably, diversity internally and the equitable governance of all were both mentioned as objectives. The FTC filed a lawsuit with the data broker for selling geolocation data from hundreds of millions of mobile devices that can be used to trace the movements of individuals to and from sensitive locations, including reproductive health clinics, places of worship, homeless shelters and domestic violence shelters, addiction recovery facilities. My prediction? This company is going out of business. Interestingly, the suit was filed in Idaho, of all places. In international news, the Saudi Central Bank, or SAMA, admitted 2 new companies into its fintech sandbox to provide open banking solutions, bringing the total number of regulatory sandbox members to 38. The Bank of Russia continues to amaze me with its alerts that do not mention Ukraine. Literally, not one single alert in the last 2 months has mentioned the word that won't be named. This week, however, the Bank of Russia said that the number of cases of money theft in 2022 quarter 2 dropped by 10 compared to the same period of 2021. It also mentioned that in April, the Bank of Russia initiated the blocking of over 100,000 telephone numbers, which is almost 10 times more than before, and the number of fraudulent internet resources blocked at the regulator's initiative increased more than 1.5 times. This week, the PCAOB signed an agreement with the China Securities Regulatory Commission and the Ministry of Finance governing inspections and investigations of audit firms based in China and Hong Kong. This agreement is the first time China will allow PCAOB inspections that meet U.S. standards. And in national politics, the White House signed the CHIPS Act of 2022, which is intended to chips create helpful incentives to produce semiconductors. So that's a U.S. manufacturing opportunity. The CFTC announced its review of CalCX's proposed contracts on which political party will be in control of each chamber of the U.S. Congress. I had no idea this was a massive unregulated market, but apparently it's a thing. If Republicans win the House, then the contract value is this, and if the Democrats win the Senate, then the contract value is that. It's amazing what Wall Street can do with information. Never underestimate it. And that's it this week for Regalytics. I'm telling you, you are literally crazy if you don't have Regalytics by this point. This is not hard. It's just news that matters to you about your business. Why would you play Monopoly the same way you always have when you absolutely know the rules of the game are changing while you're playing? Don't let your opponents outmaneuver you because they were smart enough to pay attention to what matters, the rules. Come get a demo, and I'll see you next Wednesday.